Hi folks, we're almost ready to stream. I don't think I have anybody watching yet. Give it just a minute. Okay, well today's cartoon, I had a few ideas for it. I wasn't entirely happy with all of them. But I think the story that's dominating the news today is Donald Trump not being in the next Fox debate because of Megyn Kelly. So since we're still, I think, 4 days away from the Iowa caucuses, that seems to be the cartoon that I have to draw. So it'll be my first Donald Trump cartoon that doesn't have Donald Trump in it, because he shall boycott my cartoon as well. So let's get started. So let's see. The idea today is I'm going to draw a bunch of baby high chairs and the debate among the GOP candidates as a bunch of babies throwing their food from their high chairs, and then there's going to be an empty high chair in the middle, which is Trump's high chair, because he's not there with all of the others today. So let's get going, and please join me. And I look forward to chatting with everybody. All right, ready to roll. I think this is going to be a complicated one to draw, so I'm probably going to be sitting here for quite a while. Probably something on the order of 2.5 hours for this one, I think. All right. First thing I need to figure out, I don't have these in my head before I draw them. Do I want to have just a horizon line, or do I want to have a view looking down? I think it's probably going to be more powerful if it is just the horizon line, which is what I usually do. Excuse me. Today I'm drinking coffee while I draw. So while I'm looking at this, I'm also looking at, while I'm staring at my blank sheet of paper, I'm also looking at high chairs, because I don't automatically have an image of a high chair in my head. So that's what's on the monitor. High chairs are on the monitor. So back to the drawing. I need to decide which high chair I want to use. I don't think I want to draw all the candidates on the stage. I'm going to limit it to maybe, let's have 6. Let's have 1, 2, 3, then an empty Trump in the middle, and 4, 5, 6. I'm going to need a little bit of perspective here. 4, 5, 6. Okay. And then they can be throwing food like that. Okay, I think that's going to be it. So perhaps the thing to do is sketch in the high chairs first. So which high chair do I want? They look pretty different, don't they? There's a lot of variety in high chairs that I hadn't really thought about. It's kind of a cartoon cliche standard to draw politicians as babies and babies throwing their food. But what I think is interesting about this one is the metaphor to the empty chair at the debate. And I'm hearing on the news that there will be no empty chair at the debate. Part of what they agreed in their contract with the Fox News is that Fox News would not show an empty chair. And they didn't show an empty chair at the baby table debate where Rand Paul didn't show up for the debate. So I'm guessing there won't be an empty chair, but still, this is a cartoon to run before the debate while everybody's talking about Donald Trump not being at the debate. So I think the empty chair is a metaphor rather than reality. It should be fine. Okay, which chair do I want? These aren't exactly the chairs that I had in mind. I'm thinking maybe this, well, which one do I like? Okay. Let's, well, there's a similarity. They all like to fold up, don't they? The wooden one is kind of classic. Maybe they all need to be a little bit different. I'm drinking coffee today as I draw. All right, let's have they all connect to the chair in different ways too, don't they? I worry too much about the chairs. I worry too much about details. We just need to get in there and draw it. Oops. Oops. Drawing with a... maybe the pencil's too hard for me today. Tearing up my paper. I'm using a particularly lousy paper to draw my sketches on because I bought a bunch of this for an old color printer that I had that required particular paper, and I bought a lot more of the paper than could survive the lifetime of the printer. So I use it for my rough sketches where the paper doesn't really matter, except it likes to tear when I use a hard pencil. Not a very good sturdy paper. I need a plain old bond paper for that, I guess. Okay. Stream looks good. I don't think I'm losing any frames. Looking pretty good. Oh, I'm sorry. You're looking at the monitor, aren't you? Let's fix that. So I'm sitting here talking about the perspective on these high chairs. I'm not even showing the high chairs. Now I'm going to come in and put babies in the high chairs. Three and three. Actually, they won't have an empty chair for Donald Trump because they'll have lecterns. Nobody has a chair. People are watching this. Come on, folks, say something. I'm going to block in generic babies, and then as my last step, I'm going to come in and give them a little bit of candidate baby caricature. And I have 6, I guess. We'll go with 6. And we want to have food flying through the air. Food on the floor, because this is a food fight. Spoons, and babies always have spoons, right? Babies do not eat with knives and forks, typically. A lot of splatters on the wall on this one. Sound like fun. I'm not going to have any words except the Trump label on this one chair. Okay, babies. Well, on one of the babies, Christy needs to be an extra big fat baby, so where will he go? Maybe he should be down in this corner because he's going to take up more space. So let's make him a big fat baby here. There's another baby. I'm going to make their arms. When you do a crowd scene like this, you have to worry about making things fit and then making all of the little parts of things not interfere with each other and kind of become something of a composition. Which I do as I go along, looking at where things happen to end up. Ones at the top can have their arms in the air. Still mapping it out. But I'm getting the general idea. I think we're good. Alright, let's go a little bit darker. Get a little more baby detail in here. These babies, I'm going to draw them generic at first. Gotta have big diapers. And you I just go through and methodically get all the details in. So it takes some time. Nobody's chatting with me. This is disappointing. Well, even if you're shy and you don't want to chat, please subscribe to my feed. I would really appreciate that. I need to get a minimal number of subscriptions to the feed on Twitch before they take me seriously. This is Chris Christie right here. Where are his arms gonna go? My darn neighbor is building a house next door to me. So every so often you will hear some clinking hammers. Clinking hammers that disturb the silence of no one chatting. They should all have little bowls on their table with junk in them that spills as well, huh? The secret to drawing a thing like this is just to sit there and put the darn details in and not worry about the whole until you get to a point where you have to step back and say, that detail's wrong, that detail's wrong. I actually have not been a very anti-Trump cartoonist. I can't think of anyone else who is a pro-Trump cartoonist, but I actually don't really mind Trump. Yeah, he says some intolerant and stupid things, and oh, hello, Nadim. Nice to see you here again. Nadim writes on YouTube, "Good afternoon, Daryl. Greetings one more time from Colombia, here in my studio enjoying your work." Thank you for joining me, Nadim. Colombia, I think, is a very difficult place to be a cartoonist, but there are a lot of great Colombian cartoonists. So, nice tradition of cartooning, but hard place to be a cartoonist. Who's the cartoonist you admire the most? Writes Nadim. I don't know. There are lots of wonderful cartoonists. And it's hard question for me to answer, because when I list some that I'm a big fan of, then the people who don't get listed say, why didn't he mention me? Because I've got like dozens of cartoonists in my group, and what I've done is I have made a point of inviting the ones whose work I admire to join the group, and so they are all my favorites. There are a few favorites that are not in my group that I would love to add, but those guys are not in my group. So presuming that I love everybody in my group, which I do, who's not in my group that I think's wonderful? I love the Mad Magazine guys. They're not editorial cartoonists at all. Big Jack Davis fan. Mort Drucker is the cartooning deity. And editorial cartoonists not in my group. You know, actually, I have a bigger and bigger fan of Matt Davies, who is not in my group and not on Kaggle.com. Can't get rights to show him there. But I think he's wonderful, and he's just added a lot with the color that he's doing in recent years. And there are a few guys that I've told, you always have a home on Kaggle.com if you choose to leave your evil syndicate. John Pavlis, nice to see you here. Do you ever use digital tools like Wacom iPad Pro to do your work? Yes, I have a Wacom Cintiq on the table in front of me, and when I finish the drawing, I will scan it and color it in Photoshop on the Wacom Cintiq. And frankly, since I started using the Wacom Cintiq, I can't imagine doing color any other way. But I don't like to draw on it, and I know that some cartoonists have long frustrating decision-making process about whether or not to draw on the Cintiq and give up the original drawings and the pencil on paper. But I like having original drawings, and sometimes I sell the original drawings. It would be a loss to not have the original drawings, and the advantage to drawing on the Wacom is that it's faster. But I noticed that when people switch drawing on the Wacom, there's a different quality of their art. Not necessarily a bad quality, but a fast, sketchy quality that I'm not sure is something that I particularly want for me. So, pencil, paper, scanner, Cintiq. And I spend a good deal of time on the Cintiq coloring these things. It doesn't go particularly fast for me. I did one cartoon coloring session that you can see in the library on YouTube. Yeah, you're on YouTube. You can click back and see that I saved the session of drawing the bull being weighted down by oil. I did that as a stream in Photoshop. But typically I am doing these drawings and not doing the coloring as a stream because I'm not seeing I think the coloring is kind of boring because I'm not really doing the kinds of decisions that I do when I do a drawing. And color decisions are not as interesting. Heads need to be bigger, don't they? Because these are silly cartoons, so silly cartoon is defined by head size. Yes, Venezuela. Nadine, what a mess. Venezuela's well-known editorial cartoonist Rima Suprani just escaped Venezuela and moved to Miami, where I think we're going to add her to Kaggle.com finally. She's had quite a terrible time with the regime. I think the regime closed down her newspaper. Yeah, that country is just self-destructing, huh? Not quite sure where the arms are going to end up going. I'm going to draw some alternatives here. As I draw over this, I'll decide which ones I like better. So please, if you would, subscribe to my stream and give me a like on YouTube. I do appreciate that. I have found that even though we do get a steady, good pace of visitors on Kaggle.com, and if you go on Kaggle.com now, you will see that there is a nice pop-up showing my Twitch feed that you get on the front page if you haven't chosen to never show this again. And I'd like to build up an audience for this and start making this more of a ongoing conversation. But I'm not aware of any other editorial cartoonists who do this. So not only is it unexpected, it's not something that I think the Kaggle.com visitors are looking for. They just like to look at cartoons. They flip through cartoons quickly, and they don't really have a habit of sitting and listening to a guy mumble like Popeye all the time while he draws. Do I have this right? Some spoons can be in the air as well, huh? Spoons and muck. Alright, what it's going to take time is deciding how to do caricatures on these babies once I have them blocked in. So Wacom Cintiq. Yeah, Wacom Cintiq is a wonderful thing. I don't think I could work without it. No comments yet on Twitch. I think Twitch is working. I don't actually have a window open to test Twitch. Ah, yeah, I do. Twitch is looking fine. Okay. All right. What I'm going to need to do next is try to baby eyes some candidate faces. Stick them on these guys. So let's lighten up the faces a bit and decide who these guys are going to be. who is who? Let's say this is Jeb. This one can be Kasich. Let's go for Marco Rubio there. And Chris Christie is, well, who stands to be the fattest? Maybe this guy needs to be fatter. That should be my Christie. And this one can be, oh no, that should be Ted Cruz, huh? Because he's closest to the empty chair. Let's make that Cruz. Put Christie in the back, then the fatness doesn't screw with the composition. We can have a bib. I hadn't thought about bibs. Get Carson. Okay, and the other guys are just going to be left out because I don't want to draw more than 6. Same problem Fox News has, huh? Okay, Jeb. Let's take a look at Jeb. What is Jeb looking like? I do need to look at these guys each time to figure out what's going on, and you know, that's what I look at. Google Images. Trouble with Google Images is they tend to have pretty much the same views and the same expressions, which can be frustrating. And then you get to have seen the same guys, and you notice that I notice a lot of the caricatures of people around I can recognize as the best couple of images that I've found on Google Images for that guy, and everybody's looking at the same thing. So that's what Jeb looks like. Let's go with him again. I haven't gotten good at drawing these guys yet. So torn paper. So they're babies. I need to not overwork them and not overthink them because they are just babies. So Jeb, simple Jeb. Okay, there's Jeb baby. That looking up like Jeb? A little bit like Jeb. Hard to make Jeb both look like Jeb and look like a baby. Kasich. What does Kasich look like? Maybe I should have the monitor inset here. So Kasich. Kasich has an unbaby-like face. Nadim writes on YouTube, now that you've mentioned our good friend Rema Soprani, have you seen the documentary Cartoonist Foot Soldiers of Democracy? Any thoughts about that movie? No, I haven't seen it, but I hear good things about it. It's nice that they feature her well. She was so abused by the regime there. It's just terrible. Okay, Kasich. Trouble with drawing a lot of these guys is these are just not baby-like features. And I need to make myself be simpler than I typically will be, particularly when drawing a caricature. I think that's a good Kasich. He's got a funny little mop of Brillo hair. Yeah, Rema Soprani, a brave cartoonist in a scary situation there. I'm kind of sorry to see her leave because it would be nice to have her voice in Venezuela, but can't blame her. Smart personal decision to get out of that collapsing rubble. Okay. Marco. Well, his hair is really pretty absurd. That's a little better. No comments yet on Twitch. Come on, Twitch folks, say something. Marco Rubio was kind of a good-looking guy. Has a little bit of a baby face already, huh? Which actually makes it a little harder to figure him out for this. He's balding. Balding babies are always great. You start off bald, you end up bald. Cop out to close his eyes. Kind of looks like him. Cruz. Let's take a look at Cruz. Where have I got Cruz? Cruz has a wonderful cartoon face. His arm here is going to be a problem, isn't it? I need his whole face. Let's throw his arm back in this direction. He can have some muck ready to throw. His face is kind of long. I'd like for them to be a little more baby-like than they are. Boy, I'm just getting started on this already. I've been drawing it for 40 minutes. These complicated ones, jeez. They should have muck on each other from throwing at each other. Federal Express guy at the front door. I haven't quite figured out how to deal with that while I'm podcasting. Oh, he just left it. Good. Didn't have to sign. Oh, I do have a comment on Twitch. Grimdaflame writes, "Hello there, I have a rock band. Do you want to try out and draw one? Would be awesome. I've actually drawn a couple album covers for my musician son. It strikes me that most rock bands now do photo covers, lots of them taken with their iPhone, lots of them smeary and kind of crummy, and the days of art on album covers seems to be something of the past, but it shouldn't be. Germ Delflame means I mean draw. It says I mean draw logo. I don't know. Sometimes I do. I do for my son. I'm gonna do him an album cover for his next album. I did his last album. He does harsh punk kind of stuff with harsh imagery. All right, Ted Cruz. Talk about harsh imagery in a punk. You got Ted Cruz. So, the reason that I'm not too unfriendly to Donald Trump, this is not an anti-Trump cartoon, you know, this is anti-everybody else. He's the one that's not in the room. Is because it's all relative. And as people complain about Trump and talk about Trump almost exclusively, they seem to forget what knuckle-dragging Neanderthal characters the other Republicans are. And it's all a relative thing. What scares me most about these guys is that they're so crazy religious that they're going to do like George W. Bush and want to jump into war in the Middle East in order to hurry along Jesus Christ's second coming. And that is something I don't really worry about from Donald Trump. He seems to not be in the religious crazy camp. And frankly, that's enough for me. I'll vote for whoever is least likely to get us into the next nutty war. And the crazy religion seems to me like the main reason that we would jump into some nutty war. So for that reason at all, reason alone, I'm not so anti-Trump. Even though he says offensive and sometimes racist things, you know, gotta figure where what's most important, and most important is keep us out of those never-ending wars. Oh, Danny Toon writes, "Hi Daryl, finally I found the live stream. I've watched all your videos. Keep doing them." Well, thank you, Daniel Toons. That's very nice of you. Germ de Flame writes, "If you would like to try out drawing the logo, the band is called If. That would be awesome if you would give us an idea." So, Germ de Flame, tell me about If. What are some adjectives that you would use to describe your band? Give me a list of adjectives that would describe your attitude for your band that you would like to see reflected in the character of your logo. Okay, I'm avoiding drawing faces, aren't I? Cruz has that wonderful nose that's too long and that wonderful upper lip that's too short. Too long, too short. That should be ideal for a cartoonist, huh? JDM Jones 73 on Twitch writes, "Like the drawing." Thank you very much, JDM. I appreciate the kind words. Cruz's chair needs to come out more this way, doesn't it? If it was easy to find, I would show you that album cover that I did for my son. Daniel Tunes writes, please tell us about your comic panel True. Are you still drawing it? You know, I only drew True for about a year, back in 1995. And what happened was, well, it didn't do that well. It was not a real successful comic. But I got a newspaper in Hawaii that ran True and liked it, and they changed their format, and they decided they wanted to have a local editorial cartoonist, and they called me up and said, would you like to be our editorial cartoonist here in Hawaii, Daryl? Local editorial cartoonist? And I said, yeah, I'd like that. So living in California, I pretended to be a local Hawaii guy. My wife is from Hawaii, and she would translate my cartoons into Pidgin and add all of the little details so that it looked like I was local. And I had everybody fooled. I was a local Hawaii cartoonist for about 5-6 years, up until the end of 2005 to 2000. Well, no, I would say 1995 to 2001. And I switched newspapers. I switched to drawing for the competing Gannett paper, the Honolulu Advertiser. And then the Advertiser went out of business, and I lost my job, and I started the Syndicate because of that and became an editorial cartoonist, so it's all good. So True led to different things in my life. But True, in and of itself, was not a successful feature. I think it ended up having about 30 papers. I'm avoiding drawing Ted Cruz, aren't I? He's got funny eyebrows and those wonderful pouty eyes. That long nose. He's got a lump in the nose before it goes long. And then that tiny lip. And that's terrible. Let's get rid of that. Start over. Problem with his face is it's not round baby face, it's long. So True, gosh, True's 20 years old now. I enjoyed it though. It was really an editorial cartoon. It was a single panel daily, syndicated daily, that and I think the biggest paper I had for it was the Kansas City Star. Okay. Got it a little bit. You know, if you don't get somebody right, go work on the next thing and let it fester a little bit till you see it differently. Daniel Tunes writes, I have one True book. Were there any more? Hey, Daniel, you got my True book. That's very nice. No, that's the only one. That was the only book. It's out of print. But very nice that you've got that. I appreciate that. That's really very nice. Bruce is looking just darn lousy. Block him in a little more. I enjoyed drawing True, but True had some drawbacks. First, the panel. That was before the web took over everything and newspapers started sinking, but still then it was overcrowded on the comics page, and panels did not perform well as strips. And you'll notice that some of the more popular panels, like Bizarro and Non Sequitur, the artist also draws them in a strip format in order to bump up the number of papers, even though they really are panels. And True was just a panel. I didn't try to make it also into a strip. Perhaps that was a mistake. And also didn't have any characters, so there was no, the ones with characters, you have a different kind of writing, which is that the character just acting like you expect the character to act. Oh, you want me to get rid of my monitor? Okay, that gets in the way, doesn't it? Just having the character act like the character is rewarding, and you don't get that in a strip with no characters. So I think a couple fatal flaws to the concept of True. But I liked True. It's also a fatal flaw to the concept of editorial cartoons. We have to depend on other people in the world being our characters. So the world gives us our characters, but we have no characters of our own, really. There's a cartoonist named Willis from Tunisia who draws. Her editorial cartoons are just cats. Every character is a cat. And that's the way to be popular. Draw cats. Kind of a business plan for an editorial cartoonist, huh? Every character a cat. Kind of a bold business plan, huh? You know, his eyes are funnier than that. Very funny, droopy eyes. Kind of not a bad-looking guy for being so funky and extreme in his features. I just haven't gotten to where I'm comfortable drawing any of these guys yet. I like how his eyebrows seem to leap off the sides of his head. When he opens his mouth, he shows very little teeth. And he really doesn't have that bottom lip like that, does he? Ah, Germ de Flame. We play electronic rock, indie rock, hard rock. About the logo, we bring a message to people that you are not something that can be sold or bought. You need to fight for yourself. So we have this idea, a logo with a barcode. You know what you should do, Germ de Flame? You should go to politicalcartoons.com and type in barcode. Now type in just the word, well, it searches by one word. So try bar, try code, try commerce, one of the most common things that the international cartoonists do is barcodes in cartoons. Barcodes as a metaphor in cartoons that have no words. And gosh, they're everywhere. It's got to be thousands of barcode cartoons. And some of them are quite witty. And they're made into everything from Hitler's barcode mustache to cityscapes and clothing and behind the barcode bars in jail and everything you can think of. Barcodes have been drawn in cartoons, and some pretty good ones. I suggest you go to politicalcartoons.com and for a nominal fee, pick out a few barcode cartoons that you'd like to use for your albums that are consistent with your worldview. And I think you'll have lots to choose from. Christie. What does Christie look like? Let me bring up Christie. Okay. And again, this is what I'm looking at with Chris Christie. Putting him in the back here because he's fat, and I don't want him to dominate the composition just because he's bigger. Nice to see more people watching now. Don't hesitate to talk. Yeah, there's an interesting unending fascination with UPC codes among the international cartoonists. It's quite the Jungian universal concept for these guys. I find that there are some things that I draw that make me have to stop talking. Okay. Oh, my tech guy, Theo, posts a link in chat to a batch of barcode cartoons. Oh, that's nice. Tell you what, I will... Germ de Flame is clicking on barcode cartoons. These are some good ones, but there are a lot more than this. There's a gazillion barcode cartoons. I think the cartoonists may not be putting the word barcode into their keywords. I'm going to think of some other ways to search for barcodes that would bring up more results among these guys who have not labeled their barcode cartoons so elegantly as to use the word barcode. Because I would think that we have dozens more. Mark Robinson on YouTube. Hello, Daryl. Mark here. Sorry I've missed out on some of your recent live streams. Pleasure to have you here, Mark. Don't sit silently. Okay, Chris Christie. Chris Christie's. The one thing that I look for in drawing somebody's mouth is when they open their mouth, do they display their upper teeth or their bottom teeth? Sometimes it's ambiguous, and you can't tell whether it's upper teeth or bottom teeth on the guy. Chris Christie is like that. His mouth is pretty small for the size of his huge head as well. Mark Robinson on YouTube writes, I just turned in my most recent editorial cartoon for the Montgomery County Sentinel today, and I'm exhausted. This is kind of an exhausting one, huh? Well, one. Thinking about what I'm drawing. Too many caricatures is exhausting. Christie's head is bigger. Yeah, cartoons can be exhausting. Depends on what you draw. Looking at Twitch over here, Twitch is not frozen on my feed, so I think it's good. Why don't you just refresh your window? Actually, I think the feed is working pretty well. I don't think I'm losing frames. I think everything's good. Mark writes, it was fun to do, however. Fun and exhausting. This is our career. Alright, Chris Christie's wrong. If you take anything from watching my live feeds, it should be to realize that drawing cartoons is time consuming and doesn't flow out of the hand effortlessly as people presume that it does. A good point to make when you're arguing for a higher fee for your illustration. And they say, it's fun to draw. It doesn't take you very long to draw anything. Draw a few more ideas for me. Make this change, that change. It's so easy for you. You do it so fast. Mark Robinson writes, you must be looking forward to the day when the Republican candidate is finally chosen. You mean so that I don't have to draw a crowd of caricatures? Actually, I don't have to draw a crowd of caricatures. The cartoon that I had two runners-up cartoons for what I was going to draw today. And both of them were Cruz Trump cartoons that I think got trumped by this not showing up at the debate thing. One, I was going to have Donald Trump here pointing at and standing next to Ted Cruz, who's naked and he's got a Canadian maple leaf covering up his private parts. And Donald Trump's just pointing at his crotch. I thought that was kind of an elegant cartoon. I may still draw that one. And my other concept I almost drew today was kind of complicated. Maybe it takes too long to explain. So I'll skip that one in case it comes up later. But I think I will draw the Naked Cruz one. So you want to see what my rough sketch looks like? This is my rough sketch for the Naked Cruz cartoon. Here's Trump pointing at Naked Cruz's maple leaf. That's all I do. And a reminder to sign up for Comic-Con on Monday at 10 a.m. when they open registrations for professionals. You must be on the waiting list at 10 a.m. These guys are not looking like babies, are they? My tech genius Theo writes, I still think the GOP should have Clint Eastwood fill in for Trump's empty seat. Oh, that's clever, Theo. They are swearing on TV up and down that there will be no empty seat. But I still think it works as a metaphor in the cartoon to have the empty seat. Still, It sounds like Fox News is being kind of, what should I say, confrontational about it. And I wouldn't be surprised if they put the empty seat there anyway and say, well, we invite Donald Trump to show up any time, even if he's late. Well, that arm is certainly bad. And I'm not getting any action in the air happening here at the far left. So what can I do to deal with that? Maybe that's all I need for Christie. I've kind of got him. He needs a whole lot of neck. Little splatters on their faces can be helpful too. Maybe some multiple hand motion in the air. Yes, I need to fill this up with a bunch of motion and junk. Ben Carson. Let's go to Ben Carson. And here again, you can see what I'm looking at. Here's Ben Carson. Okay. He also has an unbaby-like face. You know, I draw these guys. They're not looking like babies, are they? My Jeb Bush is not looking that good. Let me take another look at Jeb Bush. He's got these little angry eyebrows. That gives him more of a look. He's got a bigger fish lip. Kind of a trouty mouth. Dan O'Toons writes, what programs are you using for your webcast? How do you switch camera views? Well, I use OBS, and I'm on a Mac, and OBS is freeware, and it's not as good as the version on the PC, which has a lot more functions that I would like to have, but I think it works pretty well once you've got it going. I'm kind of happy with it. I'm doing the scrolling text at the bottom for the first time now. As I get used to doing this, I add a little bit of complexity and try to take away a little bit of my technical errors each time. So I think each one is improving a little bit. By the time I figure out how to do this right, it should be looking pretty good. I'm still new to this. When I get better at it, I will I'll post an appointment time for doing my cartoons and live by my appointments. But right now, I'm still getting the hang of it and not quite where I need to be yet. But I'm getting better. Also, I have to develop this idiot savant skill of constantly mumbling while I draw. Otherwise, you'd be sitting there in silence. And of course, you need to hear me mumbling all the time. I think of it like Popeye. Popeye mumbles all the time. He does a pretty good job with his mumbling, too. I like Popeye. Alright, Ben Carson has this straight face. Ben Carson's kind of a good-looking guy as well. Mark Robinson writes, maybe it's enough to have the nominees act like babies. I think there will be plenty of baby cartoons to come. Babies are a standard metaphor for editorial cartoonists. Daniel Toons writes, you have improved. Be encouraged. Ah! Thank you, Daniel. I also find that I wear this red shirt more because it performs very well with the chroma key. Most of my shirts do not. So you may think, watching my podcast, that I never change my shirt. Perhaps that is a funny bohemian artist thing to do, never change your shirt. I should cultivate that, huh? Carson. He's got a good deal of forehead. A little bit of hair on the top. Very straight nose. I find when I draw things like this, like, getting the nose right or the caricature points, that it interferes with the part of my brain that does the talking. And I just can't talk when I do that. I don't think that happens to Popeye. Mark writes, or maybe you can wear a shirt that turns you into a disembodied head. That makes great TV. Yeah, I've thought about that. I've thought about doing the aquarium behind me and stuff. But, the more junk you throw in, the lousier your stream is. Well, to a degree. I'm thinking of putting a chat window in here above my head. You heard me bump my microphone. The microphone is close to the window here. The microphone wants to disappear with the chroma key. Maybe I need a more invisible microphone. Paint the microphone green. Also, I've got my camera on my table, right? The camera is right here, just out of the screen, looking up at my chin. And the camera looking down, this one, is just 6 inches in front of my nose. So even if you were standing behind me, watching over my shoulder, you got a better view on the live stream than you do standing over my shoulder, because you are literally right in front of my nose. Okay, Ben Carson. You're right in front of my nose, and the microphone is right next to my cheek. So and I've got this chroma key leaning over my back and 6 bright little lights around. It's really kind of a silly drawing situation. If you look at the overall, I should put another camera in here just to show how absurd the drawing table is with all this stuff squeezed around me. Well, that is a lousy Ben Carson. should I do? Let's start him over entirely, huh? He's got a very straight face. Daniel Tunes writes, post a pic of your setup sometime. The setup is such a mess. You should see my my computer here. I've got so many cables sticking into it. It's like a cat played with a ball of yarn. Mark Robinson writes, which of the nominees is the easiest for you to draw at this point? You know, I guess they get easier over time as you draw caricatures of caricatures. But I guess Hillary. Although I still fiddle with trying to make my Hillary better. And Hillary evolves over time with the different hairdos and her aging. And she's actually not that bad looking. I kind of like drawing Hillary. Hillary is the best cartoon character of them all. And because she's like a real comic strip character. She's got all those background stories and a little bit of body language, and you can tell what she's thinking about. She's which is just what you want in a comic strip character. You know, you have them acting character, and that's the gag, and it's good enough. But and I know people are sick of Hillary, but that being sick of her and knowing her so well is what makes her a good cartoon character. So, another try at Ben Carson. He's a squinty guy. He's looking a bit real here for the cartoon nature of this. Mark Robinson writes, Ben Carson's a sleepy guy. That he is. He's a sleepy guy. He's actually a pretty good looking guy. Half the time he wears his glasses, half the time he does not. The glasses don't really define him. Okay. That's not very good, but maybe I can improve it when I do the final drawing on top of this. Mr. Toast02 writes, hello on Twitch. Nice to see you here, Mr. Toast. Carson needs to do something more interesting with his hands as well. I need more interesting hand action going on because there's not quite enough action in here, and I have sacrificed some of the expressions on these guys to get more of a likeness. Carson is looking pretty dull. Yeah, Theo writes that we're planning on posting a whole guide for cartoonists on how to do this, because I'd like to encourage our editorial cartoonists in our group at least to do this. And I don't know any other editorial cartoonists that are live streaming, but I think I need to at least figure things out a little better. Live streaming is not something that I think was ever really designed with Macintosh in mind, or with the proclivities of cartoonists in mind. It's designed for gamers on PCs, and the streaming and the creative community and the cartooning is an afterthought for podcasting. So it takes a bit of rethinking, I think, and a bit of jumping through some hoops to make it work on a Macintosh where it was never really intended to live. You know, the better looking that someone is, the harder they are to draw. Ben Carson's not a bad looking guy. Good looking guy. And he is symmetrical, which is bad for a cartoon. Donald Toons writes, in a world of speed painting videos, your live drawing is great. Love to see you work through problems. Well, I think I draw much more slowly than people think I do. And I think, you know, you want your drawings to look comfortable as a cartoonist. And to most people, that means that they have the perception that you drew it very quickly. When in fact, you probably take twice as long to draw it in order to make it look like you were comfortable drawing it. And so ironically, the quicker it looks, the more time it takes. Although I'm sure that is not true for many artists who actually do draw quickly. And imagine if you thought of plumbers in the same way that you think of cartoonists. Would you go to the plumber and say, boy, I'll bet you plumb really quickly. I'll bet you could knock this thing out in 10 minutes. How about you give me a great deal because it's only taking you 10 minutes to do this and it's fun. You'd be doing it anyway, wouldn't you? Now make a bunch of changes because it's so easy for you to make changes. Plumb that toilet. Move that toilet over here a little bit. Spin the toilet around just a little bit. Let's have a crowd scene of toilets. People should think of cartoonists a little bit more like plumbers. They should pay them $60 an hour like plumbers. Then the cartoonists would all get a raise. And so when someone says, I'll pay you $50 for your plumbing, plumbers would not have any problem saying, no, there's $100 minimum for me to show up. For some reason, cartoonists do not take the same reasonable life positions that plumbers do. I think cartoonists can learn a lesson from plumbers. All right, am I ready to do the finished drawing on this? I've been drawing for an hour and 23 minutes just on the sketch. Imagine how long this thing is going to take altogether. I think this is a 3-hour drawing. All right, up to get my vellum. Yes, I have shelves above my drawing table full of art supplies. Okay. You can see my torn paper. Yeah, Daniel Toons writes on Twitch, in a world of speed painting videos, your live drawing is great. Love to see you work through problems. Good. Yeah, Twitch likes those speed painting videos. But again, speed is not a virtue. So over here on the right of my drawing table, I have a piece of sandpaper that I use to make my chisel points as the right shape that's comfortable for me for a while. Mark Robinson writes, I'm going to have to bow out for a while, but I'll be back later. Steady as she goes. Okay, see you soon, Mark. Come back soon. Funny how every so often I hit on something in the drawing that means I'm using that part of my brain that won't let me mumble like Popeye. I suspect that Popeye never runs into that part of his brain. So yes, I draw on drafting vellum, which allows me to see my rough sketch underneath. And then when I lift it up, it makes a lovely drawing. Put it on top of white paper and makes great original art. So I love drafting vellum. The drafting vellum that I use is called Duraline from Seth Cole, and it's available in pads at larger art stores. Not a hard thing to find. I'm going to get the babies right first, and then draw the high chairs behind them. Daniel Tunes writes, is smudging ever a problem? Well, I use a hard pencil, so I don't smudge as much as if I used the yellow number 2 pencil. But yeah, I draw. I'm left-handed, and I draw from right to left so that I'm not dragging my hand through and smudging. But if I get some smudges, I can just pull out the kneaded eraser and fix them. I'm thinking I did a short video on how to draw hands, and I think I might do a short one on how to draw feet as well. Alright, I'm going to fit his chair around him. Where does his table go? It goes here. Yeah, this drawing's gonna take a long time, huh? So until I get a better idea, next drawing is going to be that naked cruise with the Canadian maple leaf covering up his private parts, which is a fun one to draw. I think you need to, as a cartoonist, you need to look for any opportunity to draw politicians naked or cross-dressed or as animals, dogs. There's actually kind of a list. There's a cartoonist in Iran, Atina Farghadani, who is in prison for drawing Iranian parliament members as monkeys and goats. For that, she's got 12 years in prison. And that is kind of standard stuff that cartoonists do all the time. That's just a horror. She's been on hunger strike and she has suffered a heart attack. If you go to my blog at darylcagle.com, you can see a little video that I did telling her story. And showing the cartoon that got her tried and convicted of being disrespectful to members of parliament. It's tough to be an editorial cartoonist in much of the world. I'm lucky to be an American editorial cartoonist. The world is a scary place. Boy, quite a long time. I haven't even started on Jeb's face. Okay, Jeb's face. Bring Jeb back up on the screen here. There you are, Jeb. Want to take a look at Jeb while I do this? Jeb. Got those angry little short eyebrows. He's got the same two dot eyes as his brother. Nose is different. Trouty, pouty mouth. Excuse the banging from my neighbors building a house. Oh, John Waters Jr. has joined us on YouTube. He writes, I had an appointment, just came on 20 minutes or so ago, just in time to hear you explain how people with symmetrical faces are hard for cartoonists. That was encouraging to me, as I've been trying to draw a checkout clerk at the local supermarket, and I've said to myself, gosh, her face is perfect, it's so hard to draw. You know, the hardest people to draw are pretty women. You know, they're hardest to draw when you're drawing a picture that you're going to show to them or drawing in front of them, because whatever you draw that makes them look like themselves is going to be something that they don't like. What the caricature artists recommend is that you draw every woman looking like a Disney princess, because that makes them happy. And if they're there with the boyfriend, you draw them looking like a Disney princess, but you draw the boyfriend looking like what he actually looks like. And the boyfriend will go, and the girlfriend will say, oh, it's just like him. Oh, and I love the way you draw me. So, Disney princess. Daniel Toons writes, curious about your view of pie-in-the-face cartoons versus cartoons that take a stab at a particular issue, name-calling versus arguing the issues. Well, one of the problems with being a cartoonist, which is really being a columnist who uses images rather than words, is that we can't really make arguments and points like a columnist can. We just make that's not the way his chin looks. We just throw a simple idea out there and try to be as loud as we can. Simple idea is just about all you can do. So a lot of cartoons boil down to name calling. And this is kind of a name calling cartoon. Calling them a bunch of babies. That's kind of a lousy bush, huh? Lousy Jeb. I think I'm going to need to come back to him. Let him sit and fester for a little bit till I come back. John Waters writes he doesn't want to offend the lady by drawing, exaggerating her features. Yep, Disney princess. Just go with the Disney princess. And you'll be safe and she'll be happy. I think perhaps that John Kasich shaves his eyebrows. Because it looks like he doesn't have eyebrows, doesn't it? Okay. Yeah, so I think I've got Kasich there. He was easier than Bush. I'm going to start over on Bush. One nice thing about the drawing on this nice vellum is it's very receptive to erasing and changes. It doesn't want to, never going to tear this paper. I don't think you could tear it if you were trying to. That looking a little jibbish? Just a little. Come back to him later. Finish up my Kasich. Kasich has the worst hair of any of the candidates. The king of Kasich is Nate Beeler, the cartoonist for the Columbus Dispatch. Draws a wonderful Kasich, and he's the one that got me to do the upper lip like this, which I don't really see in his photograph, but which seems to be something that just makes him look more like him for some odd reason. Cartoonists like to take whatever feature is interesting and make it bigger. And they do a video on drawing ears as well. I've got to get more of an audience for this stuff first, though, because I'm not getting enough people looking at these things. I may come back in and make Kasich's face a little bit smaller in Photoshop as I'm doing the final stuff on this. John writes, she's an alternative punk rocker type. She might beat me up if I do a Disney princess. You can do a nice looking punk rock princess. Just a different aesthetic. The point is the Disney pretty girl, not so much the princess. Daniel Toons writes, what happened to Brian Farrington? I'm a fan of his and I can't find his cartoons anywhere. Well, Brian works for me. He's the guy who does the dealing with editors for the Syndicate, for the Kegel Cartoons Syndicate, and he still does freelance work, and he could be doing editorial cartoons if he wanted to, but he has not been choosing to do so. And he is very good. He should be drawing editorial cartoons. He likes keeping on top of the business by doing our business stuff. Brian used to do the back covers to our best of year books. If you remember those. Daniel Toons writes, get him to do a live cast. Keep in mind, I'm the only editorial cartoonist doing this, and I think that's because The cartoonists want to sit in their cubicle and quietly just do their cartoon and not be bothered by anything. And it's kind of hard to get it set up to do this and then try to develop this Popeye skill. And I think it's going to be hard to get guys to do it. I'll give it a shot, but I have no illusions about it. That's a lousy looking bush and a good looking caseage. So I'm going to come back to bush. I'm going to have to redraw him again. Shape of his head was making him look less Jeb-like. Okay, Marco. Where are you, Marco? I think that's Marco. He's got heavier eyelids. He's a pretty good looking guy. Marco. That's actually a lot less chin than he's got, but it makes him look younger. He is a baby after all. He's got this interesting receding hairline. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good enough Marco. I may have second thoughts about it. He's got long ears and some very impressive earlobe going on. Okay. We're coming up on 2 hours and I've got so far to go on this thing. This one's just gonna take really long. There we go. I'm not sure that's a good enough Marco, but he'll do for now. Jeb Bush's problem, I think, was not enough face. He's got a lot of head going on. That's a little better. Give him his glasses back. Where'd my eraser go? Oh, here it is. What do Jeb's ears look like? He's got skinny ears that lay low at the earlobes. Excuse me. Rainy wintertime hay fever. Oh, he's actually looking better. Jeb. He needs a little more space for his forehead. Jeb's got a lot of forehead going on. Still not quite right. I'm going to let him fester a little bit more while I work on other things. Okay. Daniel Tunes writes, "We're watching Kegel History, a new video time record in the making." Oh, boy, it is kind of running long. My tech genius Theo was telling me I should take a break and go offline so that I split the video into manageable links for YouTube. Huh. I hadn't ever thought of that. So, that's a good excuse to take a bathroom break and sharpen my pencils. Make YouTube video part 1 and part 2. He needs the back of his chair. I notice a lot of these guys on the Twitch creative community just set up their live feed and have it run all day, every day. So Theo's telling me, do 3-part videos. Do the rough, and then do the finish, and then do the color. So 3 videos per drawing. That's ambitious. That's not something I have considered before. Three videos per drawing. I think I'm gonna do that. I may take a 10-minute break for pencil sharpening in bathroom and come back to this and make YouTube video part 2, which will be finishing this thing, which looks like it's going to take at least another hour. Then Theo thinks I should do the color on here too. I think the color is kind of boring. I haven't quite committed to doing color on these. I did one coloring video. I suppose as long as I'm sitting at the drawing table, and I could be streaming, I should be streaming, huh? Okay. Tell you what, I'm going to use this as a break point. And so we'll call this the end of part 1 for this cartoon. I'm going to go away for 10 minutes and come back, so just keep your window open and I shall reappear and finish this drawing with all of my pencils sharpened and fresh and ready to draw for another hour, followed by probably another hour of coloring this monster. Not bad to have a break before I color, because I don't think you want to watch me scan this. So that makes a good break. Okay, back in 10 minutes, and that will be part 2 of this drawing. And I will be back in just a minute. Theo writes that I should write that on the screen in OBS, short break, back at time, but I don't know how to do that, so that will have to wait until my learning skills improve. So back in 10 minutes. Thank you, folks. Don't go away.